the 16th day of Chodesh Shvat, and we are in the final parak of Maseches Pesachim on Daf Kuf Amud Beis. That is our Amud for today. We're going to pick up from a couple lines before that, so that we can jump back into the discussion, where the Gemara tells us as follows. The Gemara told us at the bottom of Daf Kuf Amud Aleph, just to review very briefly, we had a machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, whether or not we should stop in the middle of the meal on Erev Shabbos and Erev Yom Tov, meaning stop, break, bench, and then begin the next meal, or you can just roll through, no problem. And the Gemara had concluded, 4 lines from the bottom, that that everybody at the end of that Suda concluded that the halacha was like Rabbi Yossi, and that is how, in fact, we should paskin. And then the Gemara discussed, 4 lines from the bottom, Amar of Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Ein halacha loika Rabbi Yehuda v'loika Rabbi Yossi, that the halacha is neither like Rabbi Yehuda nor like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you need to stop, or Rabbi Yossi, who says that you roll through and that you bench at the end, says Shmuel ela paris mapa mekadesh. You paris mapa, you spread out a new fresh tablecloth or mekadesh, and then you make kiddush, and then you are mamshech yoseud, then you continue your meal. The Rashbam here deals with the question that we asked at the end of yesterday's year, which is, well, how can Shmuel come along and paskin not like Rabbi Yehuda and not like Rabbi Yossi? Shmuel is an Amora. Since when does he start saying that we don't paskin like the Tanaim? Listen to me. So the Rashbam is two mahalchim. Mahalach number 1 is that he has another shita. Meaning there is another opinion that is not named here, but Shmuel is referencing the opinion of another Tana. Or alternatively, what Shmuel is telling us is that the halacha is in fact like Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi certainly doesn't disagree with the notion fundamentally of Perez Mapa Mekadesh. That's okay by him. He says you can keep on eating all the way through. There's nothing wrong with putting out a tablecloth and being Mekadesh. Then that lichara would be somewhat in deference to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, which on a fundamental level Rabbi Yossi doesn't disagree with. In the conversation that we saw yesterday, he told Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, how could you be mechaviv the words of Rabbi Yehuda in front of me while I'm in front of you? That would be inappropriate. But ostensibly, to pass in like Rabbi Yossi Me'ikra Adin and still give some deference to Rabbi Yehuda would not be problematic, and that is the opinion of Shmuel. But the Gemara then challenges this opinion of Shmuel. Ini, is this really so? V'amar Rav Tachlifa bar Avdimi Amar Shmuel. Doesn't Rav Tachlifa bar Avdimi say in the name of Shmuel? Kishem she mafsikin lekiddush, the same way that you are mafsik for kiddush. What does mafsik mean? So we said mafsik means that you stop the meal entirely, that you take away the tables and you bench. Kach mafsikin lahavdala, so too you stop the meal and you stop the meal and you bench, and then you make havdalah. Meaning it would be at the end of Shabbos that would be the appropriate thing to do. Says the Gemara, "Ma'ay mafsikin." What does mafsikin mean? Lav akira shulchan doesn't mean that you stop the meal, you take away the table. Meaning not that you just put a tablecloth on top of it and you go further. Says the Gemara, lie. No. Mafsikin means lemapa. You stop the meal by spreading out a cloth. Meaning mafsikin means that you stop eating, but you don't have to take away the table. That's called peris mappa. You spread out a tablecloth, and then you make kiddush, and then you make havdalah, and then you continue going. Now the Gemara is going to quote, we're going to have to explain why peris mappa works at all, what exactly it achieves. Hold on to that question. We're going to get there in a moment. Rabba bar Rav Huna ikla lebeir Reish Galusa. The Gemara tells the story that Rabba bar Rav Huna came to the house of the Reish Galusa. They brought a tray in front of him. That's his tray table. They brought it in front of him. Paras mapa v'kiddush, and he spread out the tablecloth and he made kiddush. That's how he handled the situation. Meaning, it was an Erev Shabbos. He was eating that. They brought him the table, and he was paras mapa and he made kiddush. Tanya nami achi. We have another brayso that says something similar. She'ein mevinas hashulchan. We should not bring the table. Ella imken kiddush, unless you have already made kiddush. V'im heavy, but if you already brought the table, paris mapa v'kiddush, then you spread out a tablecloth and you make kiddush. Now, we're not, obviously, Tosfos already points out that we're not talking about the tables that we have today, right? You have a sitting at a big dining room table. Nobody is bringing a table in front of you back and forth. Instead, the din is, says Tosfos, mevinas hashulchan. Shein Mevinis Shulchan Elam Kain Kiddush. It's a Tosfos asks this question. Va'ad Amar B'chol Kisvei. Didn't we say on Maseches Shabbos, famous Gemara, Maseches Shabbos, Daf Kuf Yud Tesam Beis, Matzah Shulchan Aruch Malach Tov Omer, that if you come into the house and you see that the table is set and the candles are lit and the house is clean, then the Malach Tov says it should be like this every week, and that is the makar that we have for singing Shalom Aleichem, and also the makar for the part of Shalom Aleichem that says Baruch Hu Shalom, to bless me. Though there are those that were pick on whether or not the person is allowed to say Baruch Hu Shalom. The Gemara seems to imply that you can. That the Malachim do in fact bless us. That's okay. The Tosfos here says Matzah Shulchan Aruch, so Lo Kasha. That's not a problem. It says Lo Kasha the Aruchu be Makom Acher. Back in the day, it used to be that they would set up a table in another place, and then you make kiddush and they bring you the table. Today you can't do that. Today you cannot do that. After you make kiddush, they bring it. Now we have much bigger tables. You can't slap the table from one room to another after kiddush, because otherwise you're going to have an enormous break between kiddush and the suda. On a regilin, says Tosfos, lifros mapa ulekadish. Our minhag today is to be paris mapa umekadesh. What does that mean? It means that before we make kiddush, we cover the table. Ooh, what does that mean? We cover the table. This is the makar says the Tosfos is quoting from the Shiltos for covering the challah. You cover the challah so that you are effectively being paris mapa mekadesh, so that you come home, the table is already set, and you are going to be paris mapa. You're going to spread a cloth over the table, or the food that is on the table, i.e. the lechem, that you're going to be making a motzi on, and then you are mekadef hatam and first b'sheiltos that the purpose of doing so is to indicate the importance and beauty and dearness of Shabbos, so that this is not a regular meal, meaning you're covering this so that you can be mekadesh, and then you reveal the meal, and that is indicative of the importance of Shabbos. The Tosfos then quotes a second rationale, why exactly we would cover the challahs. So the Tosfos then said, alternatively, you cover the challahs on Shabbos because of Zecher Leman, because Pasuk Losik Parsha told us that the man came down and there was a shichbas atal at the bottom, and at the top that was covered. It was came with eco packaging, that it had a layer of dew at the bottom and a layer of dew at the top. And when we cover the challah, we do the same thing. Now, if committed between these two reasons is, do you need a cover at the bottom? If you're saying that it's about the man, so then you for sure need a cover at the bottom. You can't just plop it on. You go to Shabbaton, they plop it on the table and cover it with a napkin. That would be problematic. Alternatively, and there's many nafkaminas between these things. Alternatively, the idea of making kiddush be yikra the Shabbos, so that while you're making kiddush, the challah is not revealed, is not there. So what happens if there's only one person making kiddush? And there's lots of people that have challah. So do you need to have everybody cover the challah? At the Shabbatons, usually you say everybody cover your challah. So is that because of the man? Is that because of the kiddush? Or, and this is the third reason, which is the one that I think they teach the kids in kindergarten, which is so that the challah shouldn't be embarrassed. What's pshat? The challah shouldn't be embarrassed. So the rationale behind saying the challah shouldn't be embarrassed is because the challah has a bracha of hamotzi, and the pasuk says you're gonna eat and be satisfied. Allah that all the benching is all about Eretz Yisrael, and the Gemara tells us that anytime that you are making a bracha, you should make a bracha in the order of the pasuk talking about the brachas of Eretz Yisrael, which is Eretz Chita v'Sayra Gefantein Rimon. That the first thing that you should say is on Chita and Sayra is on wheat and barley. And you're going to cover the challah, so that would be problematic. Alternatively, and there's what more to speak about this, is that if both of them are there, so then the maybe you should be making hamotzi as part of your kiddush. Maybe that only applies to yakas. There's a lot to talk about. The minhag agra was not to have the challah at the table at all, so it's not to get into any of these questions. Meaning Paris Mapa Kaddish is only if you have the challah at the table. But if you don't have the challah at the table, then you don't need to be Paris Mapa. Okay. So I suppose the Vilna Gaon didn't give challah covers as a wedding present. But okay. Says the Gemara continuing, Tani Chad, one brisa tells us Shavin She'im Maschil, that both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi agree that you shouldn't begin the Suda on Erev Shabbos. V'tani Yidach, and another brisa says Shavim Shemaschil, that they both agree that you can begin the Suda. Bishlam Hadatanya Shavim She'im Maschil. It makes sense, the brisa that tells us that they agree that you shouldn't begin. Mishkach is Erev Pesach. You find such a din on Erev Pesach. On Erev Pesach, you find it in both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi agree that you should not, like Rabbi Huna told us in yesterday's Amud, both agree that on Erev Pesach you cannot start a meal. But that which we said, that they both agree that you can begin. Emas, when do they both agree you can begin? So, Shabbos, if you want to say that that's happening on Erev Shabbos, no, that's exactly what the argument is. Says the Gemara, like Kasha, no problem at all. Both of them agree that before the 9th hour of the day, you can begin a meal, meaning you can have a late lunch, just not that late that it would roll into the late afternoon, meaning mid-afternoon and onwards, because that's where the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi would apply. Now, the next sugya begins at the bottom of Kuf Amud Beis. We'll just begin the sugya just to introduce it, and we'll continue with it tomorrow, which is Oisam b'nei Adam shekiddush beis hakneses. You have chaver that made kiddush in shul. This is an ancient minhag of making kiddush in shul. Amar Rav says Rav yedei yain lo yotzu. They have not fulfilled their mitzvah of yain. We'll talk about what that mitzvah is. But yedei kiddush yotzu, they have fulfilled the mitzvah of kiddush. Shmuel says, turning over to Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph, they also have not fulfilled the mitzvah of Kiddush, and we'll talk about the difference between these dinim and these mitzvahs, what exactly all of this is and what it is about. Tomorrow, everybody should have a wonderful day, and we will see you then.